Hi everybody, welcome back to the channel and welcome to Airbrushing for Beginners. Today's video we are going in depth on the Harder & Steenbeck 2024 Ultra because I've seen a load of comments on the channel and there's been one particularly that sprung to mind. It was like someone's really struggling with it, struggling to spray paint out of it, and then when they are getting paint out of it then they're having to pull right back to try and get paint out of it, and it's just very, from a seasoned artist looking at these comments to a beginner, you can see the problem, and I know exactly what problem it is. If you're doing that with your Ultra and you're having to pull, like you're not getting no paint out and you're pulling right back, I'm going to show you the mistakes that you can get if you're not doing the correct things with a brush. So this one's for all the beginners that have got the Ultra that they're having problems with, because you shouldn't have no problems with this brush, and all the problems are created by yourselves. And the first one is paint. It's everybody's beginner's nightmare is paint. They're not getting their paint consistencies right. At the end of the day, it's a 045 needle and nozzle. We can't put emulsions through it, we can't put glosses through it, out the cans from B&Q, Homebase, Walmart, wherever you're getting it from. These needle and nozzles are small. Even on a 045 they are small tip sizes, so you've got to instantly think little spray device needs thin paint. Big spray device with a big 2mm needle can pump out thicker paints. Just bear that in mind. Anything like this airbrush, you got to dial your paints in. You have to, else you're just going to have a nightmare from the start. Nothing will spray right. It'll be spitting, you won't get the flow, your work will look horrendous, you'll beat yourself up, throw the brush in the box and walk away. And we don't want to do that. You want to start your journey and just have a nice ride on the journey. So we're going to move in closer on the Ultra. I will show you the best paint mixes to put down its neck so you're not causing it to cough, splutter and fart. And then I'll point you through some little cleaning tips on that brush to make your life a lot easier, because the design on the front end is for a beginner. So you don't batter your needle into things, because beginners will do this. You will hold a brush, go up to a piece of paper, you can't judge distance, and you go wallop straight into the paper, and then you bend the needle, and then you chin in a new needle. So that's why H&S designed it with a crown cap that is like sort of one piece. So the needle is permanently protected. So you can see why all the designs on this brush are based for a robust brush for the beginner. But the robust brush can cause you problems as a beginner because you're heavy on the paints, you're blasting paints for long periods of time and you're not thinking of what you're doing. You just, oh, I'm airbrushing, look at that. And it's like, you've really got to look after that, and you've really got to dial in what's going in that to get the best out of that. So let's move in a little bit closer. We'll get some paint consistencies mixed so you get that bit right, and then I'll show you some little cleaning tips for this brush to keep it spot on. Right guys, there's your Ultra. All singing, all dancing, H&S right there. Perfect for the beginner. Like you say, you just got to get the paint dialed in right, because that's a tiny little needle on that really when you think about it, and you've got to really sort of dial your paint in. So off the bat, golden high flow acrylics, opaque black. This should spray straight out the bottle, running 20 psi. I think this one's actually thinned down, but I'll show you the paint thinning on this in a moment. See, now that is straight out the bottle with your Ultra. So that's what you're aiming for with your Ultra. Paint mixes, consistencies like that. Now this golden is thinned. Out the bottle this will spray at 20, out this brush. But if you want it to spray easier, sort of like this, mix it 1 drop of golden to 1 drop of water. Now that's what I've done with this leftover bit of black, because I've got, like, say, that much black left. I've decanted it, strained it because it's an old bottle, and then just 50-50 what I had left. So mixed it half and half with water, and that's what's in this bottle now. So it's a thinned out mix, and that is the sort of consistency you want for your brush. You don't want thick bodied acrylics through these. You've got to think of, you want atomization like this, so it's a nice, like that. That's what these brushes like. They like paint like this. When you start putting thick paint through them, for one, you're going to be turning this up, your air pressure on your compressor. You're really going to be cranking that up, and you are going to be pulling right back. Or if you're trying to work off your settings like this with thick paint, this brush is not going to want to know. It really isn't, because you're really trying to push a lot of paint through a little bit of adjustment on the trigger, and it's just not going to have it. You'll be cranking your air pressure up to 45 psi to try and get it out the front of the brush if it's too thick. If you've got a thin paint doled in, we go to, that is level 1. Let's flick it to level 2, level 3. See, that's how you want it coming out of the brush. We've got base, and we've got prime, and then we've got full trigger. And that's how you should have this brush running. You should have it running like that, so all them settings work on all them ones with that paint in. If anything, this paint is a little bit too thin. It's probably over 50-50 on this mix. I've just over thinned it to make it last, because I'm running a lot of low pressure at the minute. But if you thin your paint down to that sort of consistency with like a golden 50-50, you'll have no issues whatsoever with this brush. You won't be pulling it right back to get paint out. Now, some little common mistakes that the beginners are going to be making with these brushes, I guarantee it. They'll be taking the back off, and they'll be pulling this bit off. Now, a lot of the time is this being loose, thinking that they've got it tight. They've done that and it's not, and the needle isn't located to the front. Yeah. So what they will permanently get, if that isn't connected to the front, and they've tightened it, and now there's a gap between the nozzle and the needle. So you get that. So instantly when you press down, you're getting this. Yeah. See that? You're literally pressing down on the trigger and you're getting that. And that's because that needle isn't located to the front of your brush. So just double check that. Slide it to the front. This is why I always say slide it to the front, one finger on the back, just holding the needle in place so it doesn't move. Finger on the chuck, thumb on the chuck, and just nip it tight like that. And then you will see that when you put paint in, when you press down now, you don't get any paint coming out because the needles close the nozzle off. It's only until you pull back, and then there's your paint. So that can be a common mistake, setting your ultra up. You've not tightened this up and your needles slightly move back and you're permanently getting paint out. So that's that bit sorted. In fact, we'll keep the back off. We'll just dump this paint out. Get rid of that. Right, another one is this front end. Now, they've designed this so you don't bang your needle, because beginners will go like this. Guarantee it, they'll go too far up, they'll end up stabbing the needle, and you'll have gouge marks in your paper or whatever you're using. It's a little less forgiving on this sort of stuff on paper, but if you're working on like a gas tank and you go up and bang the needle, it's just going to dent the needle. Now, the air cap, slide your needle back like that, slide your needle out, undo the front end right? Now this is what I mean by these are small needle and nozzles when you think about it, yeah? That's the end of the nozzle. That tiny little hole there is a 045 outlet. Now trying to push thick paint out of that, it's like, no, it's not going to happen, you know. So you have to have a consistency of paint thin for it to atomize and come out of that little hole. Now other problems beginners will get is they'll say, I've cleaned my brush, it's all clean. They've blasted it through, but what they'll get is a build-up of paint, dried up paint in this over time. So where you've got your little white O-ring there on the end, get yourself a little dental brush, slide them in the front, give them a little twist round with cleaner on. You see the paint coming out of that, like that. Put some cleaner on the end of it, do that a few times. You're not going to press hard, you're not trying to push that through the end of that because it won't go. You're just literally pushing it down so you can feel it on the walls of the inside of that nozzle, like that. Clean it, blow through it, and then to double check it, look up at the light and you'll see through and out the front, and you'll be able to see the walls. When you look carefully and look up like that and move it to the light, you'll be able to see down it. So that is your nozzle clean. When it comes to the front, a lot of people aren't cleaning this properly, and what you'll get is you will get a build up of paint on the opening of that hole at the end. Where this comes through here and goes in, slice to the front, that is basically in the centre of that ring there that's on the outer. That's what's just slightly protruding on the inside of that, and air's got to come round that. So what tends to happen is with these, when you're spraying your thick bodied acrylics and you're running this brush at 45, 50 psi and you're blasting and you're blasting and you're blasting paint, you'll get a lot of build up around this because it's trying to force the paint out. It's thick bodied paint, it tends to splatter as it comes out, and then it just builds up. I'm just coming on there, it builds up round this edge of this ring here, splatters back, builds up, and then your spray pattern will go all funny, and then you'll get a build up around the opening of that little hole at the end. So get some cleaner, get a cotton bud, slide the cotton bud in like that and twist like that a few times with cleaner on, like that. In fact, I'll put some cleaner on now and you'll get to see this. So slide the cotton bud on with cleaner, do that, and you can see the dirt. That's paint coming off. Now look at all that paint. That's just a build up of paint. So if you do that a few times with a cotton bud, that will clean the hole at the end and it will clean the inside of this. Give that a dry off, put that back on, back onto your brush with your nozzle in. So you've cleaned the front piece like that. You've cleaned your nozzle, that piece, slide that back in, drop that back in on your brush. Do not over tighten this piece, just nip it. Nip it till it stops, that's all you've got to do. You've not got to wrench it. Nip it till it stops. Slide your needle forward, finger on the back. You're not pressing forward, you'll feel it locate to the front. Get your finger like that. Finger, thumb. Nip the chuck up. Next thing to do is water. Get some water and just blast through. Any little bits that are still in that nozzle, they will now clear through with water. Then get your sleeve setting, drop that on, drop your back piece on, and that's your ultra running clean. Now when you're working and you're painting away and painting away, To save you stop taking this off every 5 minutes and pushing a cotton bud down it, you could do that. You could do this. Slide the needle back and then you're good to go with a cotton bud. Straight in, do that. Quick buzz around with the cotton bud. Slide your needle forward, nip it up, do that. That's nice and clean. To get round that without doing that, one of them artist brush. Just poke it down the holes, give it a little clean that way, like that. You can do this with your needle in place. You're not going to bend the needle pushing an artist brush in like that. Giving it a little clean. Even with a bit of mild water, mild airbrush cleaner. Down them holes like that and that'll clean it up. That's the sort of go-to method I'd use if I'm using this brush for a long time. Would be artist brush and just poke down the holes. But you will only get a build-up if you're running over thick paints. I've ran thin paints with this brush and done pieces on the channel with this brush and I've had no issues with this building up. But if you are using thick paints and you're sort of running them where they're spitting and coming out spitter, it's just going to clog the front of this up so fast on this. It really is. Now, something to look out for if you want to upgrade your Ultra. Right guys, a real nice upgrade for your Ultra is an Evo 045 front end with the prong cap. This is the same size nozzle, 4.5 as what you've got in this. So you could buy that piece, which is the air cap, and it comes with a prong cap. And then you can take your one off your Ultra. I'll take the nozzle out the Ultra like that. Get your prong cap off it for your Evo, slide that in, drop that straight on your Ultra, and then that's your instant upgrade. No more poking with your artist brush and worrying about clogging up at the end. You can take the prong cap off and then you can start to work with a needle exposure. Now I'd recommend this after you've been airbrushing for say a good 8 months and you know your distances really well. You can judge going up to your paper. But that is a brilliant upgrade for the Ultra, is to put the Evo front end on it. Now you can put whatever setup you like in this. You can put the 4.5 in it. You could buy the 02 front head assembly, but you'd need to get the nozzle, the air cap. You can buy the kits. You can change this to a 0.2, a 0.15, a 0.6. You can just change it to what you want, the 0.45, the 0.28 on the Evo. So if you wanted to change this up to make it even more detailed for a detail brush, you can do that with this. You really can. I think that's the best upgrade for it, is that with the prong cap, because then when you're painting, let's just demo this for you. In fact, I'll put some paint in so you see it paint with that nozzle on. I'm going to drop some thin paint in this. I want to drop the pressure down. So all we've changed is the air cap and we've got the prong cap from the Evo. So straight in, and this is the setup that you've got for your 045 Ultra, exactly the same. Now you can take the cap off the end so you've got needle exposure, and you can see how well this brush gets ridiculously down, guys. I mean, look at that for a 045. It really does. It's a brilliant brush. Loads of tension in that trigger for the beginner. But it gets hairlines down. As you can see, look. hairline straight the way. And that's just changing over, so you've got exactly the same setup. If you get a little bit of tip dry now, you can just do that. So it's a great upgrade for the Ultra, really is. Brilliant brush. So I'll leave a link in the description. If you are 4 or 5 months down the line and think, can I upgrade it? Can I change the needle and nozzle in it? Yes, you can. You can change the needle and nozzles in these. Not a problem at all to what you want. But works really well. Super fine down. Just gets you that little bit closer to your work. If you want the real fine stuff like that. Super down. So a little blast through. You'll be able to clean it exactly the same, but then you've got your prong cap. Prong caps are really nice because you can work with them on and you can see your, if I turn that to the side, when you go up to your work, you can see what's going on. And this is the bonus with the prong cap. If you've got paint in the cup and you want to mix some paint, you can just pinch over the front, press down on the trigger, pull back, and you can bubble up. You can bubble back in the cup, which is great for mixing paint, and it is great for quick cleaning. Get a bit of airbrush cleaner in there, bubble back a few times, blast it through, pinch the front, bubble back, blast it through. So it's a nice upgrade for your Ultra. I'll leave a link in the description where you can buy the different setups. You can get them in tubes. You can buy the complete setup where you get the needle, the nozzle, the air cap, and you'll get the prong cap with it as well. I think it's a real good option. Just buy the tube, the whole setup on a different needle and nozzle setup, so you can just put it into your Ultra. If you want to work some real fine detail, turn it into a 02 with the prong cap, and if you're doing big stuff, background stuff, drop your 4 or 5 in it and just blast the paint down. So there you go, guys. I've just changed it back over. So we had the Evo and put the front end of the Evo onto the Ultra. So that is a great upgrade for your Ultra. Now, as I say, if you are getting problems with this, there's nothing wrong with the brush at all. There's nothing wrong with that brush. It's the beginner putting the wrong paint in it. It really is. Every time with an airbrush, beginner's mistakes is paint. It's first thing you have to get dialed in when you start painting is your paint. You have to, because these are small needle nozzles. 045, that's a 045, that's a 02. My Infinity's a 015, even smaller. So you've really got to think of your paint going into these brushes. So ballpark, aim for semi-skimmed milk. That mix is a semi-skimmed mix right there, and you've seen that spray. Instantly spray, atomised, lovely. And then when I swapped it over and put the Evo front end in, I used my mix, my pre-bottle mix, and that sprayed, and you've seen the detail we got down with that 045 on the Ultra. It's just incredible. It can get right down on detail, it really can. And this is why getting your paint consistencies right, that's when these things come alive. That's when you'll see the true performance of what these things can do when you get the paint dialed in. You try and put thick paint through it and you're trying to go detail right down, and you're cranking the air pressure up to 50 psi and you're an inch off the paper. It ain't going to work. It really isn't. It's either going to come all out at once and you're just going to have this explosion effect all over your piece of artwork. You've really got to get your paint dialed in. And then when you get real thin paint, then you've got to start dialing your air pressure, because you can't go up to these pieces blasting out 40 psi an inch off the paper. You've got to think of that as well. You've got to think, right, thin paint, drop my pressure. If it's slightly thicker than thin, back off a bit, might give it a little bit more pressure to get it to come out the brush. And that's why I always say test to the side. Have a piece of paper to the side, mirror matching the paper you're working on. So if you've got a piece of artwork ready to go on a piece of paper here, you want a piece of that paper exactly the same as your test piece. So you can go to that side, get your sleeve set in. Your first bit of the artwork's level 2. So you get it on level 2, go to the side, test on level 2 with your distance and go, yeah, atomizing really nice, air pressure's good, checks the paint, let's commit. Instead of going paint in, level, open trigger, 40 psi, wallop, splat all over. That's when it becomes stressful. That's when you start to dislike picking up an airbrush. You throw the piece of paper away, you chuck the airbrush down, wish I hadn't brought that, walk out the door and never touch it again. Because you made the silly mistakes at the start by just doing simple checks. Check, then do it. It's just easy, guys. It's because beginners are very gung-ho. What makes it hard for a beginner is they go to YouTube and they see all the pro artists creating all this amazing work, and they're just the pro guys are all, yeah, and they just paint it, and look at that. They will see a time lapse and this thing, this photorealistic piece will all come together, and you think, yeah, look at that. They don't see the artist before mixing all his paint, setting all his pressure up, sorting his paper out, checking his brush. They just see him on the time-lapse painting. And that's how the beginners think, oh, it must be like that then, straight in and start painting. No, they've done all these checks, they've sorted all their paints out, they've dialed their air pressure in, they've cleaned their dirty brush out and got all the crap off the needle and round the crown cap, and then they go in and make it look easy. That's why it's good to see these breakdowns like this, to check the front ends. That's how you'll check the front end of the Ultra. If it starts to choke up and you're getting a funny spray pattern, pop your needle out, take that off, cotton bud, nice and simple, down the front like that. Give it a little twist with some cleaner on, and you've seen the dirt that pulled back on that cotton bud when I cleaned it. And then when you're painting, just think to yourself, you've been painting for 10 minutes. You know what, I'm just going to double check. Little check test. Get your artist brush, poke down the front, little blow, have a look, nice and clean, continue. That's all we've got to do. Like I say, beginners are they're eager. It's good, it's a good thing because it gets you're passionate about, obviously you've got the drive to do it, but you can be running before you walk in these things, and you just sort of, you go down the wrong path instantly. There's the right path there. It's like being at a fairground where you're queuing for a ride, and then you've got the bloke there going, quick lane, here's the quick lane, open the gate, and everybody runs to the quick lane because they want to jump on the roller coaster quick. It's exactly what beginners do. They just go vroom because they want to get there today. And this doesn't happen like that. It's years and years and years of practice on the trigger, practice, hours and hours a day. I'm on the brush in here every single day. 2-3 hours every day. If I'm not working, doing other stuff, I'm in here painting things. Stuff that you've not even seen on the channel. I've got a load of bits that I've just done recently that have not even been put up on the channel. I've just been painting. Different size pieces, going from A3, going right down to painting on a credit card, going back up to painting on A3, back down, different challenges, different pieces of artwork, more photorealistic piece, less photorealistic piece, cartoon piece, car, portrait, female, male, background, bouncing from that to that to that to that to that, and it's all time on the trigger. You need to put time in on the trigger to progress. You can't just go ding and you're painting a portrait. It doesn't happen. It takes years, it really does. So just don't rock up to the start line, and when the gun goes bang and it goes go, just snail pace, That's all you've got to do. First year, snail pace. Nice and slow, master your paints, sort your air pressure out, do easy pieces of artwork and progress that way. And then start challenging yourself. Do the next piece a little bit harder. Do the next piece. Start trying things with shields. Start trying things with stencils. And just learn that way. Don't rush. But keep that clean. That's all you got to do. Keep that clean. Look after that, and that will look after you when it comes to your art. So I hope this has helped the people that own the Ultra and they've had a little few issues with it. Stick to them guidelines. You will be sweet. You won't have any troubles with it. So thanks for watching. Drop your comments, share your thoughts. If you're new to the channel and you're liking the content, click that subscribe, press the notification, and I'll see you lot in the next one. Cheers.